Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a Kentucky family talks about proposed legislation that they hope will bring justice for their late son. And at least 10 historic American documents are taking a U.S. tour this summer.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Welcome to Mountain News This Morning. I'm Caroline Mueller here with you on this Wednesday, January 21st. The time is now 4:59, so let's go ahead and check in with meteorologist Megan Desmond for a look at your forecast this morning. Megan, I swear this cold weather makes me like tear up. I take one step out of the door and there were literally tears streaming down my face this morning, and with my makeup I'm like patting it like that, like it's like very overstimulating. So
yeah,
I'm scared that's going to probably continue.
Well, the good news is we have like a mini break. It's not going to be as cold tomorrow morning, but I say mini break because it just comes right back as we're heading into the weekend. Let's break that down, starting off with what you need to know heading out the door. A mixture of the upper teens, low 20s. And those feels like temperatures, of course, are definitely colder as you're starting off your day. Thankfully, though, I mean, these high temperatures aren't that bad heading into your Wednesday. Upper 40s, some folks even seeing the low 50s, so some folks are actually warmer than average for this time of year, which is definitely exciting. However, we are looking at a little bit of a snow chance this morning and a wintry mix chance as we're heading into the middle of the day. So a little bit of an active forecast to start off your Wednesday, but as a reminder, it's only going to get worse as we're heading into the weekend. A snowstorm is on the way. I'll cover more on that in just a little bit. But in terms of your Wednesday forecast, all in all, we're going to look relatively clear to start off the day, starting to see that wintry mix chance, especially in the midday hours. Caroline.
Megan, thank you. We're working to learn more after a large fire in downtown Williamsburg shut down Main Street last night. You're seeing new video of that fire on your screen right now. We know it happened near Crowley and Associates law offices. We're told people were evacuated from nearby apartments and moved to City Hall to keep warm. We don't know what caused the fire, and we're still working to learn if Main Street is still closed. The Justice Department has subpoenaed 3 top Democratic leaders linked to the immigration action in Minnesota. This comes after the Trump administration has repeatedly accused them of encouraging agitators. CBS's Jared Hill has the latest.
Minnesota's governor says the state will not be drawn into political theater. This after he, the state's Attorney General Keith Ellison, and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey were served subpoenas by the Department of Justice. The Democrats accused of conspiring to impede federal immigration officers. During a White House press briefing Tuesday, President Trump touted his administration's immigration crackdown.
Remove tens of thousands of illegal alien gang members, drug dealers, murderers.
In St. Paul, Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bavino stressed their operations are targeted
on individuals who pose a serious threat to this community.
Today, we're hearing from the man who on Sunday was forcibly removed from his own home by ICE agents, allegedly searching for 2 convicted undocumented sex offenders, instead detaining a U.S. citizen dressed in just a blanket and boxers.
They didn't ask for my ID or anything until after they handcuffed me.
Tuesday, a group of Twin City police chiefs said some of their off-duty officers have been the subject of immigration stops as well.
Immigration enforcement is necessary for national security and for local security, but how it's done is extremely important.
You know, they're going to make mistakes sometimes. ICE is going to be too rough with somebody, or, you know, they're dealing with rough people.
From a high school walkout in Texas to an ICE facility in Philly, protests have spilled out across the country.
Resistance to what is happening right now, the increasing authoritarian regime of the Trump presidency.
Still, the White House says it won't deviate from its plans. Jared Hill, CBS News.
In California City, California, Democratic lawmakers are raising questions about conditions at an ICE detention center. Meanwhile, President Trump called the fatal shooting of Renee Good in Minneapolis a tragedy, noting her parents, he says, were tremendous Trump fans. In a case today before the Supreme Court, justices will decide whether a president can exert his influence over the Federal Reserve. In August of last year, President Trump announced his intention to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook, accusing her of mortgage fraud, an allegation she denied. Cook then sued the president, arguing that the Federal Reserve Act allows removal only for cause at a standard that she says has not been met. But Georgetown law professor Michelle Goodwin says the White House argues that cause is not even necessary.
The administration has been making a consistent argument throughout executive orders and removals, which is that the president has the authority because he is the executive and he has the authority to take on these issues such as this, and that Congress can't intervene, and in this case, not even the court can intervene.
A U.S. district judge and a federal appeals court panel have both granted preliminary injunctions blocking Cook's firing and preserving her position. Conservative Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh has long been concerned with preserving the independence of the Fed. A ruling for President Trump would grant presidents more control over the Fed and its power to raise and lower interest rates. A ruling for Cook would reinforce the independence of the Fed from political pressure. A bumpy start to President Trump's high-stakes trip to Switzerland. A minor electrical issue forced Air Force One to return shortly after takeoff, according to the White House. The journey resumed after the president switched planes. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, President Trump is set to make his case in person for why the U.S. should have Greenland. The president wouldn't say how far he'd go to getting the self-governing Danish territory.
This will be an interesting trip. I have no idea what's going to happen.
You'll find out.
While in Europe, President Trump will also push a plan for his proposed Board of Peace, a key element in the president's Gaza peace plan. The White House says more than 10 countries have already signed on. This morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced on social media that he too will join. A bill to make driving safer has passed the Senate, now heading to the House. Senate Bill 28, known as Phone Down Kentucky Act, would ban the use of handheld electronic devices while driving. It does not prohibit Bluetooth or speakerphone use. If signed into law, it would take effect in January. A Woodford County family spoke in Frankfort about a bill they hope will bring justice to their late son. House Bill 422 is also known as Logan's Law. It's named after 6-year-old Logan Tipton, who was killed in 2015 in an attack at his family's home. The attacker, Ronald Exantis, was found not guilty of murder by reason of insanity, but he was found guilty but mentally ill of assaulting Logan's family. Exantis was released from prison early last October because of a program called Mandatory Reentry Supervision, but he was arrested in Florida days later. The bill would strengthen sentencing and parole laws for violent crimes. It also limits early release options for violent felons. Logan's family says they'll keep fighting for accountability.
And I'll fight to the end of my time to make sure that somebody will be held accountable for my son's death. Logan's Law is just the start.
We just miss him, but this is helpful knowing that maybe his death wasn't in vain.
The Tipton family worked with State Representative T.J. Roberts on Logan's Law. The Kentucky Senate has approved a proposed constitutional amendment that would pause the governor's pardoning powers in the final stretch of their term. Senate Bill 10 would prohibit pardons and commutations starting 60 days before the gubernatorial election through the next governor's inauguration. It still needs approval from the House, but if it passes, the measure will be placed on the general election ballot for Kentucky voters to decide. An event to announce a unique tour of historic U.S. documents was held yesterday at the National Archives Museum in Washington, D.C. The Freedom Plane National Tour Documents That Forged a Nation exhibit will visit 8 U.S. cities between March and August. The exhibit is being held to commemorate America's 250th anniversary. The historic documents will be taken around the country on a customized Boeing aircraft called the Freedom Plane.
So to celebrate America's 250th birthday, it is my pleasure to announce today the Freedom Plane National Tour, to make accessible to the American people across our nation for the first time historic and consequential documents fundamental to America's founding and the beginning of American government.
At least 10 irreplaceable documents from America's founding period that are windows in time will travel the country to 8 cities beginning in March and set to conclude in August. Thanks for getting your day started with us here on Mountain News this morning. Still to come, January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. We'll hear from doctors about why screening is important.
And we're continuing to track the incoming snowstorm that we're seeing this weekend.